the pitch can be modified. The narrative is the same, but the pitch can be modified for a different audience every single time. So if I'm talking to marketing and I want to, get their buy-in on the project that we are doing, that will help increase revenue. But for them, I have to talk in terms of this will help grow our user base or whatever their goal is, right? Which will also help, increasing revenue. But that's just one example. Like if you're talking to engineering teams, like, yes, it'll help you launch your feature and it'll help us do this.
Hey folks, this is MK Palmore. Welcome to this episode of Amplify, the Leadership Student 2.0 podcast. Today in the studio, I have Priyanka Vergadia. She's currently a developer relations specialist with Microsoft. She's been on the cybersecurity and developer landscape for many, many years. I've become a fan of her content. I thought you guys might enjoy a conversation where we dive deeply into her intentionality, into building and developing a brand for herself. I hope you enjoy the episode. Priyanka, welcome to Amplify, the Leadership Student 2.0 podcast. I want to get right into a little bit of your background. I think the audience will find quite a few of the elements of your background super interesting. You're currently at Microsoft, but the road to get there didn't start there. So talk a little bit about early career stuff and how you got started in the developer space.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. So early career stuff, I started off I did my master's in computer science and from University of Pennsylvania. I started off just like any other software engineering, computer science graduate thing. So wanted to be a software engineer, right? So the first job was, what I could land was software engineer and test. So I ran with it. I did that for about a year and a half or so, and I realized I like this, but I don't quite love this. Something's missing. Mm-hmm. And that then prompted me this was a startup I was at, and that then prompted me to start exploring a little bit around me. And so in this startup, I was sitting next to a few people from who serve in professional services and pre-sales roles, and they would talk to customers and pitch the technology and create demos. So I was great at building demonstrations and of the technology and how it would apply to the business. So I thought that I want to explore that. And I reached out to the manager of that team and they said I'd be amazing at it, which I didn't know at the time, right? If somebody else tells you, I was like baby, I guess, coming out of school, and they trusted me, and that gave me a little bit more trust about myself. And 6 months in, I realized that is what I wanted to do. I wanted to solve problems, hear new problems every single day from customers, right? And then try to fit technology solutions to solve those problems. And the rush of like meeting a new customer, finding a new problem, finding a new solution for it was just very, very exciting for me. So I continued to do that for a few different companies with the lens that I want to grow my technology landscape and the learnings over these switches of different companies. So I went from the startup that was building chatbots at the time 15 years ago to an API management company, then to a CDN company, that's Akamai. So as you can see, I continued to grow the portfolio of the technology services that I was working with. And then at Akamai, I had another moment where I realized, hey, I'm already to a point where every single customer conversation is about cloud. And here's my infrastructure in cloud. And that is where I decided, okay, the next move has to be to a hyperscaler, because that is where I'll be able to grow and expand my understanding even further. So that's kind of how I got to Google, and I was in the similar role working with customers, customer engineering role. Still very excited about the role. And then 1 year later, this was a very early days for Google Cloud, and we didn't have much documentation. We didn't have many videos on the YouTube channel and stuff. And so I was in these customer conversations. I remember explicitly with Dialogflow, which is the chat and chatbot creation platform. And my demos were becoming internally sort of standard for here's how we should demo this product. And I being asked to demonstrate in not just my accounts but other accounts as well, and I was like, maybe I can scale this, and maybe I can create some videos so people can just take them and use them in their conversations. So that's kind of how I reached to the internal developer relations team, because they were the ones who used to build and had the infrastructure for creating videos. And so I reached out to them, and there was an opportunity to do a 20%. I said, can we explore a 20% project where I can help create these videos?
Tell people a little
Yeah.
bit about what a 20% project is. Some of my listeners
Yes.
won't know what that is.
Yes. So Google has this program called 20% projects. And that this is basically you spending 20% of your time outside of your regular job to learn a new skill or to dip your toe into something different. And that is highly encouraged. So I used that 20% to kind of gain this new skill set, but also with a goal that I want to help my other teammates use these demos that I've made. And in the process, I realized a pivot for myself in the career. It's like, I'm really good at explaining things in concise formats and creating videos and narratives that land and stick fast, right? And
Right.
and that then led me to start thinking about one-to-one type of customer conversations, to switch my focus a little bit into one-to-many type of conversations. And that's kind of what developer relations is, where you're now interfacing a lot more with product and engineering, and also interacting with the community in a one-to-many fashion. So I was there at Google for about 7 years, and 6 of those were in developer relations, just growing and building products along with engineering teams and launching them as a part of creating the first few demos of our products. The how are we going to work with the community to troubleshoot and understand how they're using our products so we can improve them. So that whole feedback loop I was part of. And then I've been thinking for years to kind of bring a great developer relations engineer, combine that with a great um, customer solutions engineer. The combination of those two things together, to me personally, is what is a winning combination for any product and individual to be successful in a customer situation. And so I was always thinking about a role where I could create something in a go-to-market type function, which is a combination of great thought leaders that then can also talk about products and bring those two stories together with customers. So that's kind of how I got to Microsoft, where they're interested in doing this, and they thought that I would be the person to lead that charge, and that's the journey to Microsoft.
So I've been a fan of yours for a little bit of time now. We overlapped for a little bit at Google. I remember becoming first aware of who you are. I think I'm pretty sure it was a YouTube video or something that I saw of you. And she's at Google. And I look you up on the system, and then really started to pay attention to all the videos. So I mean, at this point, have you done hundreds, maybe even thousands of
Probably close to 1,000, yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of presence on YouTube, and I remember seeing you for the first time and acknowledging, one, that you had a flair for communicating, and that you were communicating pretty high level, topics, all technically based. And I think that there's probably not a ton of people on the landscape who are capable of doing it with the vigor and sort of enthusiasm that you provide in the videos that you do. But I also, and I let you give the digest of your background, you touched on so many things I think that my audience would get some interest out of. And part of it has to do with your intentionality. Like it's clear to me that you do, one, a lot of self-reflection. Like you understand where you are happy and where you need, where there's a gap. And when you see that there's a gap, you make intentional moves to places that you think will settle that gap for you? And I don't know if those gaps are like long term or whether or not it's just, hey, for this portion of my career, I would love to be able to do X, Y, and Z. Can you talk a little bit about the process that you go through? Is it just clear to you that something's missing at some point in your career, and then you start an exercise or trying to figure out what that is? What's that process look like for you?
Such a great question. I introspect every few months. So this is my process. I Every 3 months is a longer introspection session for me. And this is not planned. It's more so like it just organically happens because I'm just used to it
I
now.
can tell it's baked into your
Yeah.
personality. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just baked into me. But like I would say every 2, 3 months is when I'm really sitting down and thinking about, am I happy where I am and what is missing? Like some of these
Mm-hmm.
questions and sometimes I'm trying to answer those questions on a weekly basis, and that those could be project related, and the longer term career related are more like 2 to 3 months or so. And I try to answer it in this way. Like I'm always thinking about what is the story I want to tell off of this career move, and what is the story I want to tell off of this project. So these are big and small scale things, right? If working on a project, I want to be able to say, here, the outcome of this is, I want to be able to say, being in a DevRel role, I was able to gather ABC skill set that then sets me up for XYZ 4 years from now. I want to be able to tell that story on my resume. And and that you have to think clearly about that story, which is why the 3 months, 2 3 months of like introspection is extremely important. Because if I am at any point feeling that I'm actually not going to be able to tell this story or completely be able to, have all the dimensions of the story that I want in the next 3 years, then maybe time to move, maybe time to pick different projects, maybe time to explore a 20% that can fit that gap, right? that that's my process, and it's a little organic, but yeah.
No, it's fascinating, and it probably comes very natural to you. But I can tell you, I do a lot of mentoring, um, and folks are always sort of asking, how you become intentional about making those moves, or they come to you. I'm sure you have mentoring sessions. They come to you with just the broad, what should I do next?
Yeah.
Well, you have to envision that yourself, and it sounds like you go through an exercise of creating that vision for yourself, and you identify the pieces of the vision that you need to accumulate. And then I love the way that you put it, in order to be able to tell a story about that professional period of your life, and then make sure that you're getting the things out of it. I like that systematic approach that you take to it. It's interesting that comes naturally to you, though.
Yeah, yeah. And then I'd also say one thing that becomes very clear when you do this exercise is, even if it's for small projects that you're doing right now, it's a 2 month thing, 3 month project, or something like that, it allows me to be able to say no to things that don't fit that
I
puzzle,
love that you
right?
said that. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Because everybody wants you to
Talk a
say,
little bit
yeah.
more about that, please. Let's dive into the ability to get focused on what you are trying to accomplish and achieve.
Yeah, so now we'll take this example. Yeah, we'll take an example. Let's say when I was writing my book, Visualizing Google Cloud, this was like 3 years ago. Um, the book had
One
come into
wonderful book, by the way. When I first
Thank
joined
you.
Google, that was one of the first books I bought to basically get my head wrapped around that massive portfolio of tools and services. But go ahead.
And,
Yeah,
and
great,
you
great
just
book.
you just pointed me in that direction of where I was going with it. My goal has what had been, and it didn't start with the book. It started with some blogs where I was trying to make it easy for people to learn Google Cloud and the concepts, and not just Google Cloud, but like learn cloud, get into it. And whoever wants to was the goal. Like it should become accessible through the content that I'm creating. And when I started to write some of these blogs, put them on GitHub, and they started to get traction, that's when I decided, okay, maybe we need to convert this into a book because people are asking for it in the PDF format now. So that's kind of how that happened. But where I was going with the project example is that now that it's clear to me that the goal is to make it accessible, make knowledge accessible to people so that they can get jobs, so that they can get certified, so that they can move further in their career. These are my top level goals. Anything if somebody is coming to me and be like, would you do a Coursera course during that time that's focused on something related, I can say yes to that, because that will help expand the frame that I am in of making this concept accessible to people. Mm-hmm. But if somebody comes in and says, take on this other project where we are going to build XYZ types of demos, totally tangential, I would say no to that, right? Because it is not fitting in that time frame, in the scope of what I am wanting to solve for and in that moment. It just helps you say, I like the, because I am a person who would say yes to a lot of things, and over the years I've realized that this is the best model to start to figure out, what do you say no to? And you can be confident with this framework to be able to say no.
Yeah, I think it's so important. When I left public service and came into the private sector, in public service, there's not a whole lot of, you don't really get to say no to anything. Whatever's sort of pushed down in a hierarchical setting is what you're assigned to do, and you do it. But I recognized when I came into the private sector that everything's so wide, and you can fill your plate with all kinds of activity and projects that you can take on, both self-created and otherwise. And a lot of it can be completely out of scope with what you were hired to do. And you find yourself scurrying along. I don't know what your experience was at Google, but my experience was, the first year there, I was accepting every meeting invite. I was going, and getting involved in every new project that was being stood up. And I was volunteering, saying, yeah, I'll be the executive sponsor for this. And yes, I will do that, and all this kind of stuff. And you get to that year and you figure out, wow, this is it's completely overwhelming when you agree to sort of open your aperture that wide, and then you realize that this is not really my space. This is not the space where I'm able to actually excel and bring the types of results and things that I'm capable of bringing. So you go through this whole exercise, which I'm sure probably resonates with you, and you just described it, where you get hyper-focused in on, hey, here's what I want to be doing with my professional time. It adds value to the organization. It's, oh, by the way, the stuff that I was hired to do, and I can contribute in a way that I think is substantive. And I think a lot of people I've seen in tech really get lost in that, just sort of a jumping on everything that's presented to them. And I see it as highly unproductive.
I totally agree. And yeah, it also leads you to think that a lot of people in tech also think that the only way to grow and progress is to just get promotions and go higher. I personally see growth and progress as, I talked about this a little bit earlier, right? Where it's like, what are the skills I would want to have to fit that puzzle that I am trying to solve, right? And that don't necessarily always means promotions. It means lateral switches, lateral learning of a little bit of time with let's say marketing. I've intentionally spent time with other teams just laterally to learn and grow. Marketing is one of those sides. I've spent a lot of time in sales and have a lot of respect for what sales does for technical products, right? So like bringing those things together is growth, and those are things that can help you also figure out if you're exploring and wanting to change careers. And there's lots of people I mentor, it's like, I'm just lost. I don't know where to go from here, to your earlier point. And I, especially early in your career, if you're not exploring and going into a little bit tangential to explore and understand what some of the other roles actually do and bring to the table, I think that can be huge eye opener. And you could realize, like in my example, I realized that I'm good at something when I actually did it. And you don't just accidentally come across those things. So you have to make intentional decisions to try something different every few months, every few years, to right. surprise yourself.
One of the things that, again, it jumped out at me when I first recognized who you were on the landscape is that you've taken a personal interest in sort of your own identity in the landscape. how you've sort of self-branded yourself, and how it's sort of the self go-to-market plan. Like how am I going to bring my personal brand to market? And I think you've done an amazing job at that. Like, is that an intentional thing? Is that a component of how you think about how you want to be perceived in the space that you operate in?
Definitely an intentional thing to, I personally think it's extremely important now more than ever for everybody to think about having a personal brand, because it's so important to tell the world who you are and what you believe in, right? It's beyond your jobs. It's beyond the day to day of what you do in your roles. And I hope this comes across in my brand. I'd love to hear from you what your perceptions were as you've been following me for some years. My intention of like how I wanted to come across, and I wanted to let people know that my intention and what I stand for is education and growth and learning and expression, creative expression, and in technology. And those were some of those things, and storytelling. All of those things packaged together is sort of what is, I also think, unique to me. And I think this is one of those things where it's like if you're thinking about building a personal brand, that also requires, to your point, intentionality. Like, what is different about you? What is unique about you? It could be your background. It could be some of your skill set. Identify those things and then think about how you bring that to life on LinkedIn or whatever your platform of choice is. That was what my process or exercise was. I was great at drawing and sketching. I'd done that for my entire life. And since I was 3 years old, I loved drawing. Well, I have a painting behind me that I've done, which you can't see, and we'll make sure we'll make sure maybe I'll send you some pictures. I love to paint and draw, and I had been great at presentations. So my idea during COVID was, how about I bring those two things together and explain technology with sketches? And that's kind of how the book was born, right? And
Did
also,
you do those
yeah,
sketches? Did you do the sketches in the book that you wrote, or did you
yeah.
contribute to those
The
sketches?
the
Yeah,
earlier
they were wonderful. Yeah.
the few earlier sketches were all me, and then we had to get a designer involved because I couldn't scale myself to do 100 sketches. So yes, but the inspiration, the way we've drawn the things, the characters, and all that is all my initial work. So yeah, but that I hope that answers the question. It's totally intentional. It's totally again about introspection and then bringing
Yeah.
that to life.
No, I'm a big believer in the idea of a personal brand. I've heard it now amplified by folks like yourself, and I even sat in on a session. I can't remember the conference that I was at, but a session that someone who's like a profile helper on LinkedIn who was amplifying to this one crowd, and I was already a believer in it, that you should be using that space to explain and show to people how you want to be perceived as a professional. You
Exactly.
can, if you choose, and this is where it gets a little bit, as I know a lot of people like to sort of just push the easy button, right? You work for a particular company, so you put that company's brand up on your banner. Everything is about that company, and everything that you write is about supporting that company's interests, and that's great if that's the approach that you want to take. But the approach that I took is that, yes, that's the company I happen to work at this time, but I was a leader, and for me, leadership's the brand that I go to market with. I was a leader before I came to that company. I'll be a leader after my time at this company. It's the thing that I want to be part of my go-to-market presence. And so everything on my LinkedIn profile has to do with that brand of leadership, always learning, always engaged in the development of skills related to people development and investing in people. And not so much focused in on the brand of the company that I happen to be working for. And I don't know, I've always felt completely comfortable with that, but I know the vast majority of people take a completely different approach to that. And it's just, hey, here's company X, Y, and Z, and here's that new product that they produced, and blah, and
Yep.
you should like it just because our numbers are great and everybody's buying this product, so clearly you guys are interested in it. Just a different approach. Again, I love your intentionality, and I think it's such a fantastic example. And I'm pretty sure in conversation, I've actually told people, hey, you should take a look at what Priyanka does for herself there, because she's really on the mark. I think you just create a great example for folks to follow. So before the call, we were talking. You're currently leading a team at Microsoft at the moment. Let me proffer something to you. Your intentionality and the way that you're organized thought-wise. Not everybody's like that. How do you then get your team to buy into your approach to things and maybe get them on board with some aspects of how you like to do business? Because it sounds like you are very thoughtful, very intentional, and some people, I think, operate in different ways. So maybe just the question that I'm posing to you is that, how do you take the best of what you have and offer it as a way to get business done, but also make room for other people in terms of their approach to getting things done?
I have a very cross-functional team, and I've always had, for most of the career, very cross-functional role. So involves convincing or influencing without authority all the time, right? So my leadership principle
Mm-hmm.
sort of revolves always around being able to influence without authority. And then obviously with the team that I have, I would be able to do that with authority, but I still lead by that principle of influencing without authority, because you have amazing people who report to you, but also have uniqueness about themselves. Because I understand this concept of personal branding, I really do believe every single person has something very unique to offer, and they bring something very unique to the table. It could be in their skill, it could be in the way they personally present themselves. It could be in the knowledge and the experience that they've gained over the years. Something, right? So there's something unique about every single person, and I like to give space to people to let that shine, because when you let that shine, you can achieve the goals and the metrics that you want to achieve for the team's goals and things like that, because everybody understands that. But if you have them lead through their own personal strengths, that's kind of what I believe in. So that's my leadership style. Most of the role depends on connections and influencing the marketing team, influencing the product and the engineering teams, and also the sales teams. So there's definitely different goals of each of these teams, but being able to lead in a way that all of their goals and also ours are we're able to work together and move towards common goals is constantly something that I'm thinking about and moving towards. And I also this is something I really mentioned to the junior folks that I mentor. It's like, the pitch can be modified. The narrative is the same, but the pitch can be modified for a different audience every single time. So if I'm talking to marketing and I want to let's say get their buy-in on the project that we are doing, that will, we know, help increase revenue. But for them, I have to talk in terms of, this will help grow our user base or whatever their
Mm-hmm.
goal is, right?
Right.
Which will also help lead, increasing revenue. But that's just one example. Like if you're talking to engineering teams, like, yes, it'll help you launch your feature and it'll help us do this. Like you kind of have to like modify your pitch a little bit. So I lead more in those directions. Influencing without authority is absolutely the one thing that I swear by, I lead by.
Yes, I mean, you touched on two important concepts I want to make sure people glean from this. One, the latter concept that you're talking about is not just influencing, but making sure that the agenda is sort of about a win-win, right? You have to you have to identify what their priorities are and help them achieve their priorities. And in concert, you're automatically sort of helping you achieve your own
Yeah.
at the same time. So that was huge. The former concept that you mentioned that I think is important for people to take away is this idea of giving people space to sort of operate and shine how they want to show up and operate. And in doing so, you made a huge important statement. You will achieve your metrics, KPIs, and the things that you're trying to work towards. Those are two massive concepts. I think that not that it goes over people's heads, but I think that oftentimes, especially in the leadership realm, and I've been guilty of this, and it took me a while to learn this over time. You will get to where you want to be if you pour into the people that you're working with. They're going to automatically shine. They're going to achieve the things that you expect for them to achieve, and in most cases, overachieve. So you're going to, when you give people that kind of space, they're actually going to do more than what you expect them to do, and just do this, wonderful thing. So it's just, I'm glad you talked about that in real and practical terms, and these are things that we try and amplify through my team at Apogee at all turns, and it's an interesting concept. How would you say you've changed as a leader? Say, think about your early days in tech and where you've evolved to now. Was there a particular pivot moment where you sort of have been able to stand fully in who you are and what you represent in the industry, or did it happen over time? And is there anyone aspirationally who provided sort of some guiding light to you, or is this just all kind of part of Priyanka's evolution in the industry?
Mm. I think I've learned from the experiences of
Mm-hmm.
reporting to some really amazing people in the org, right? And that had influenced some really good experiences had influenced that this is the kind of leader I want to be. The creating space example, the statement comes from, I've reported to some really good thought leaders who have created space and given 100% autonomy to me and
Mm-hmm.
trusted the caliber that I have to shine. And that is how I was able to. So I just I've just gone through personal experiences that led me to be this is the kind of leader I want to be. And then also there's been opposite experiences in life too. It's just like everything else, from which you learn and be like, that is not what I want to be, right? And I'm thankful for all the experiences, because this is exactly what shapes you to be the leader that you want to become, because you need to have both good and bad examples to be able to learn. So I would say it's mostly the experiences and the ability. The second piece that I kind of touched on earlier is wanting to try different things. I think that is extremely important too. And just like how we are saying, giving people the space, giving yourself also the space to make mistakes, to be taking a risk and be okay with saying that didn't quite work out, and it's okay, right? And I've done some of those things in order to learn. I've as a 20%, I've also tried being a PM for 20% project. And I said in a month, I don't think this is what I want to do. And I think those are just such enlightening moments for yourself as well, and also the team that you report to. So those are the things I would say the experiences has mostly shaped the kind of leader I've become.
Have you experienced any challenges being a woman in the technical space? Has it been apparent to you, or do you just feel like you're soaring and it comes easy to you? What's your perception of that?
I would say that I think I've just been extremely, extremely lucky to have been around the leaders who never made me feel that I was different
Yeah, or less than.
or less than. And I every single Women's Day and those moments, I take the opportunity to thank these leaders, because I just I never have felt it. And I'm sorry that it exists today, right? It exists, but because I haven't felt it, it's so hard to relate. And I've just been focused on here's my mission, here's what I want to achieve. The people around me have just been supportive. And I have to say, I've never reported to a woman manager so far. And it's not intentional. It was just happened
Hmm.
so that every single person I've ever reported to has been male and has been extremely supportive, right? So that I'm just thankful that I don't have those experiences.
Well, and I'm glad that you've had the experience that you have, because now I think you're a shining example of like what you can become when uninhibited, or when the pathway you've navigated it perfectly. I just think that
Exactly.
what
Yeah.
you're doing is wonderful. In terms of what you're excited about, what are you excited about in terms of where technology is going?
I am nervously excited, is what I would say. I'm nervously excited about all the new things that we are seeing in AI. My The reason I say nervously is because not that I'm scared of AI. It's more so it's becoming so hard to keep up. The investors have a problem with, like, do I invest here or there, right? Because it's going to consolidate, right?
It's
It's
moving
moving
so
so
fast.
fast. And so that is just that's why I say I'm nervously excited. I'm very, very excited for the potential and where we are headed. I mostly work on the developer space. So I work closely with GitHub Copilot and our Azure deployment and infrastructure side of things. And it's all very exciting, like the large number of GPUs used to train these models and all that. But I'm just a little bit nervous with the speed, and things just keep shifting so fast that the companies that are existing, like small the startups that are existing today, may just all converge. A lot of the space is going to converge, so that's what makes me nervous, because it's just so unpredictable right now.
What's your advice to folks trying to break into the technology space, like in a very focused and consolidated way? Like someone who's, I'm sure you have this in your circles. I meet a lot of people who are trying desperately to break into the space, land their first opportunity. What's your advice to them?
I really, really believe that fundamentals are still extremely important, right? So you don't, like, yes, use AI to learn faster, but you can't skip the hard parts. Like, you can't skip actually trying to learn programming. You really cannot, and that is what I continue to emphasize, because
I might have to challenge that just a little bit. I discovered Replit about 3 weeks ago, so I'm I'm like, I guess I'm a vibe coder at the moment, because I can't keep my hands off of it. Like, I'm in there every day just building stuff.
No, and that this is exactly what I'm talking about, right? Yes, be that vibe coder, but have the ability to go into that code and be able to say, yes, this is good, or no, this needs to be edited and changed to meet the compliance standards or whatever else it
Yeah.
might be, right? And that is what I mean. And you only get there if you actually know the fundamentals. So don't skip that part. And it's actually not that hard, right? You spend 3 months of constant effort on learning a programming language,
Mhm.
you're going to be pretty strong, right? And so that's what I would say. This is my one tip, and I did 2 videos on how to break into cloud engineering and how to break into AI, and both of them emphasize on this one tip a lot. Like, this is the first point, and then there's like 4 more. But yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Where can people find you if they're looking to see some of your materials?
Yes. So LinkedIn is where I post most of the things, and then so LinkedIn would be P Vergadia, is my first letter of my first name and then my last name, and then same thing for Twitter as well. Sorry, X, I guess X, as well as YouTube. On YouTube, I'm trying to be a little more regular, so every week I'm posting a video now,
Okay.
and it's mostly about breaking into tech, concept about cloud and AI, something along those lines. And then, so LinkedIn and YouTube are pretty much the most active platforms.
Yeah, you don't need my help, I think, amplifying your brand. But if folks are just finding out about who you are from this particular podcast, I would highly advise listeners to take a look at the some of the content that Priyanka has created, because it's infectious. I think that you'll get hopefully hundreds, scores, or thousands, maybe even of new followers. But I'm a fan of the work that you do in the industry. Big supporter, and if there's anything that we can do at Apogee to help scale what you're doing, would love to get involved. And I know to pivot to one point, you recently joined the Apogee Speakers Bureau. What types of speaking topics are things that you get super, super passionate about? Like, what kind of messaging do you want to bring to audiences?
Finding your personal brand in the field that you are in, and how do you hone that. And so that's definitely one topic. I love to speak about this because it's so unique and different for every single person. But if you apply a framework, you're able to get to that faster. And the framework I talk about is about, it'll take you about half a day to 1 day to sort of sit with yourself and answer 10 questions. And then that, with that understanding about yourself, you can go off and build your personal brand on LinkedIn and set the stage, basically change your about section, change your summary, like things like that, which sort of gets you started. And then the types of things you need to post and start building. So that's my number one topic that I love to talk about, because it changes lives. And then the second is more around obviously technical aspects like cloud infrastructure and AI, and how those two are coming together to solve a specific type of problem or use cases. And I'll do that depending on the type of audience I'm talking to. And then the third is how to build your career in tech, right? And that caters to either like early career starters, or someone who is in the midst of like mid-career, like transitioning from one field to another, or trying to get promoted from one role to the next level. Those are the three main types of talks that I love to do. Again, you can probably see a theme of like wanting to really help people build better careers and be happier.
I love it. I hope that folks hearing this become fans of yours, follow your content, look forward to collaborating with you as it relates to the Speakers Bureau and getting some of your messaging and personal branding out there on the landscape. It's been a joy to have a conversation with you, get to know you a little bit more, and I appreciate you joining me on this for this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm very excited to continue our relationship through the Speaker Bureau as well.
All right, folks, this is MK Palmore. That's it for this episode of Amplify, the Leadership Student 2.0 podcast. We will see you next time on the landscape. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Amplified, the Leadership Student 2.0 podcast. If you're ready to elevate your personal leadership and drive your team's success, connect with Apogee Global RMS for custom coaching and development solutions. And be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode of impactful personal leadership strategies. Until next time, keep leading with purpose and empowering those around you. Together, we'll amplify your success